Hello, everyone. My name's Tyler Schrodt, and I'm the founder of the Electronic Gaming Federation. EGF's mission is pretty straightforward. We build leagues that kind of look like the NCAA, but we do it for esports. We expand them into high schools, and we make them international. So if you've never heard of esports, you should definitely check out the CB Insights report. It's pretty good. But in the meantime, esports are basically competitive video games like Overwatch and League of Legends. At the professional level, they draw a viewership of about 260 million people a year. Our industry revenue grows about 40% year over year. And it seems like every other day, somebody from traditional sports is investing in either a team or some other esports property. So at the professional level, they kind of set the pace for how our industry develops. And the amateur scene, just like in traditional sports, is actually starting to catch up to that. Now there are more than 45 colleges that offer some level of esports scholarship. The biggest problem there being this ecosystem is super underdeveloped and really highly fractured. That's a problem because if you look at traditional athletics, they generate about $9 billion a year in the college market. And if you assume that esports are continuing to follow the path of traditional sports, it's not unthinkable to imagine that we'll be at about the same level and not too distant of a future. So our job at EGF is to essentially bridge that gap. What we do there is essentially building the next generation of the NCAA specifically for esports. We use a model that's inspired by traditional sports with a particular focus on transparency and benefit to the students. We run a high school league called EGFH and a college league called EGFC. It allows the student to develop from high school to college the same way they would in traditional sports, all within the same ecosystem. So behind the scenes, what that actually means is that we're focused on three particular areas. So one is being the governing body, handling everything that the NCAA does, specifically related to esports, for which schools pay a membership fee to be a part of that league. We provide development services to new programs and a platform focused on team management and recruitment, which a school can opt into on a SaaS model basis. And finally, we produce all of our own events, so championships and things like that. And we broadcast all of our matches through platforms like Twitch and YouTube. So to give you a little bit of an idea of the scale that we're at right now and kind of where it's going, like I said, EGFH is our national high school body. It works just like traditional sports where teams from different schools will compete against one another in different titles in a regular season followed by state and national championships. We're also working on international stuff already. At the end of September, we announced our first partnership with the state of Connecticut to roll out programs for every school across the state in the coming years. And then within the first 3 weeks, we saw about a 10% adoption rate. And I'm actually really excited that since we submitted this presentation ahead of the conference, we've actually added 2 more states that we'll be announcing in the first part of 2018. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that we get to do. If you're a student in EGFH, as I mentioned, you have the opportunity to be recruited into an EGFC college. So right now, there are about 64 primarily Division I colleges that compete in EGFC tournaments, and our formalized league and its founding members will be announced in the first part of 2018. So as you can imagine, this is kind of like a complex and ridiculous thing to imagine on an international scale. So I've been really fortunate to work with a team that have expertise in everything from higher education, complex systems, esports, sports, law, media, kind of everything across the board. And we manage about 50 people across the US and starting to get into Canada and Europe as well. Behind us are mentors from traditional sports and esports that have been involved in those industries longer than I've been alive. So we've got pretty good advice behind us. And since we started in 2013 running tournaments out of my dorm room, which is kind of where this all started, we've run about 175 tournaments, and we're one of the highest rated tournament organizers in esports at this level. So we're pretty excited about what we do and really excited about what the future holds, and certainly continuing to work with colleges and governments around the world to continue to develop esports. And the one thing that I wanted to mention before I leave you all is we see esports not just as a platform for competition, but also for education engagement and social impact. So we know that we can't necessarily change the world, but we can definitely change someone's world. So we partner with really awesome nonprofits like Anxiety Gaming to maximize that potential impact. For your information, they work with people struggling with mental health issues to provide a bunch of resources, which is something that was one of our day one initiatives. So just to give you a little context as to why esports has become so important and why it's more than just playing video games. So thank you so much for your time.
How do you make money?
So from a couple different ways. Right now, esports adoption and viewership at the college level is pretty low. So we start by charging colleges and high schools based on the number of students that are participating in a program or by the number of esports titles that they support. As they continue to grow and develop and learn how to market it, just like with the NCAA, a lot of the money comes from media rights, advertising, and things, but that requires an audience. So we're really focused on membership fees and SaaS model basis for platform that we offer.
Have you partnered with publishers, and do you see that as a big part of your scaling efforts?
We're really careful not to align with a specific publisher. We're game agnostic, so we have the ability to support any game at any time, which is important because a game like League of Legends, which is by far the dominant one right now, isn't going to be popular forever. So we do partner with most of our publishers to make sure that we have proper support for the games, that we're representing their brands properly, and that type of thing. But those relationships are specifically non-exclusive to let us do kind of whatever we need to do. Ultimately, games are picked by the schools that are members of our organization.
So at the collegiate level, do you have exclusivity with these schools, or are they able to go to other organizers to run similar events?
As soon as a college formalizes their program, which means they have a kind of a full-time staff behind it, they offer scholarships and things like that. When they join our league, it becomes exclusive. So it's kind of like participating in any of the traditional sports leagues that you'd find. There isn't really a point to go anywhere else. Certainly, most of the people in our space right now are kind of figuring out who's going to win. Our colleges just happen to be the biggest.
So what drew those colleges and universities to you? I mean, you've got some pretty impressive names behind you. What allowed them to pick you over other options, or heaven forbid, going to the NCAA and seeing if they could do something as well?
Yeah, so the thing that kind of draws them away from the NCAA is that they don't necessarily see the cultural fit of the way that organization works and sort of what sort of reforms and other elements they want to look at into the future. And they also see esports as something that they potentially see as generating the same amount of revenue that a football program might. So the difference between us and everybody else is that we're more than just a tournament organizer. So sure, we run events and things like that, but we're the only company that can actually go in and work on a case-by-case basis with every school to make sure that they develop them to whatever goals they're trying to achieve. And the way that we use our long-term vision in terms of data around viewership, ways that we package media rights and everything like that, kind of changed the way media rights happen in traditional sports, which allows them to potentially make a lot more money on the outside.